Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Hema Kulkarni. I am a counselor by profession. I am also a motivational speaker, and I like to make videos about certain topics which I feel I should be bringing in front of everybody. Okay, so today I have a very important topic about abuse. Regarding parenting, I had mentioned that I would like to make a video on abuse. Okay, so today's video, before I start, I have 5 disclaimers. Okay, the first one is that this is a general video, that is, I'm going to be touching the topic in a very general way, so nothing specific, as because everybody is different, every parent is different, every child is different, so please keep that in mind. The second thing is it's an awareness creating video. Okay, this is not to make you paranoid about your parenting style or your child. That is not the intention of this video. What I intend to do with this video is to just make you aware that there's a very thin line between different kinds of abuse. Okay, so this is something that I wanted to make as a video so that everybody becomes aware of it. So please don't get paranoid. Okay, that is the second thing. The third thing is there is a lot of controversial, it could be controversial as far as, when I talk about the sexual abuse. Okay, as a parent, what you need to be aware of. So you use your discretion, and as I said, don't get paranoid. Okay, and the fourth thing is that it does not mean that from every child who comes from a dysfunctional parenting is going to become dysfunctional. That is not what I am trying to say in this video at all. Okay, because we have plenty of examples where children from very happy secure environment have gone astray, and on the other hand, from dysfunctional families, they have turned out to be very, very sorted out, and they have achieved a lot. Okay, so that is the fourth one that I want. And the fifth one is that I'm going to be touching very, very lightly, because my intention is to give tips or to help you as a parent. Okay, and as I said, it's an awareness creating video, so I want to concentrate more on what as a parent that you can do, and what as a parent that you should be doing, and what you should be aware of. Okay, so let's begin today's video. A child which is born in a family, into a couple. Okay, but another thing, I'm going to be talking about parenting as couples who are parenting. So of course single parents also, but I'm not touching upon children who are orphaned or abandoned. I'm not talking about that. I'm just concentrating on parenting, whether it's single parent or a both the parents in this unit. Okay, all right. So as I said, when we talk about parenting, or when a child comes into when you bring a child into this world, it's almost like a seed that is planted. Okay, and when the seed gets the right kind of a soil, and it gets the right kind of a nutrition, it gets the right kind of nurturing, it will grow into a very healthy kind of a sapling, and when you protect it properly, that is when the seedling will grow into a proper plant, and whatever is its life path, whether it's a plant, shrub, or a vine, or a tree, so it will grow into that when it gets the right kind of an environment. And if you compare the seed with a child that we bring into this world, it is the child is born to parents. Okay, whether they are together or whether they are not together, and this child, if it gets the right kind of environment, the soil the seed requires, we can compare it to the environment that the child is in. Okay, now this environment is not just the physical environment, like a home structure, a family unit. It's also the environment that the child is born into, like for example the social environment, the financial environment, because hardly you will hear people talk about financial abuse also. I'm going to touch on that today, because that's what it's almost like coined by me. There is financial abuse also. Okay, so as I said, the environment has an effect on the kind of growth the child will have. Okay, and I'm not just talking about the physical growth. I'm talking about all kinds of growth: the emotional growth, the mental growth, the social growth. Okay, and this is if the conditioning is not proper, if there is a dysfunction in that environment, it is going to affect the child. And this what affects the child is, it is carried not only during childhood, it is carried into adulthood also, and it affects every relationship in their life. Okay, whether it is friendship, whether it is business and work related relationships, your love relationships, your marital relationships, your relationship with your children. Okay, so this is something that needs to be very carefully understood. So if this, in this environment, okay, when I'm going to loosely mention all the different kinds of abuse that happen, and first and foremost is like the mental abuse, there is emotional abuse, there is physical abuse, there is financial abuse. Okay, and the most gruesome of all is that the sexual abuse. Okay, so there is a thin line between emotional abuse, mental abuse, because they very few times there is one abuse which is prominent. It is normally a mixture of many abuse. Okay, now I'm going to give you a few examples of my clients. Okay, they are, and ex-clients, and two of them were my clients, and during my discussion with my psychiatrist friends, a couple of them came up. One is a lady, was a lady, she was my client. She was a lady who was extremely successful at what she did professionally. Okay, and she was heading a corporation, a multinational corporation, big lady. I mean, a very well established lady, very commanding, very authoritative. And when she made an appointment to come to, she was not my client for a long time. So when she came to me, I thought probably it was she just did not want to start. What is your issue? What do you like me to help about it? She was just not opening up. And then slowly, what I gathered from her is that she had parents who always told her that you're not good enough. Okay, and this was because the parents were high achievers themselves, very high achievers in their field. Okay, now they were scientists. Her parents were scientists, and with patents and all to their name. So they were very, very kind of they had high aspirations from her also, and these aspirations were told to her or conveyed to her in such a manner that we have reached here. It's impossible for anybody to reach there. So even if you come here, and we'll sort of it's okay for us. And that sort of stayed with her so much that today she was MD of one multinational corporation, and she felt that she was not successful. Okay, that's one aspect. Now this is, you can say it's a mental abuse, it's also an emotional abuse. Especially in Indian context, the second example that I will give you is that there is a lot of emotional blackmail that happens as a parent, what we do, and that is emotional abuse. We may give it a nice name like emotional blackmail, but that's an emotional abuse. It's like whenever there is a sort of an argument or disagreement, or there is some kind of a fight between the husband and wife, what happens is one of them, they look at the children and say, don't do this to your spouse tomorrow. Okay, now this is a form of emotional abuse. This is not a very deep one, but it is still there, because what happens is the child takes it up as his own problem, and he wants to, now he is learning two things: what not to do, rather than learning what to do from parents. Okay, so this is an emotional abuse. It stays with the child in his mind, so it's a mental abuse also. And an example of this is one of my clients. Again, she's still with me, and this lady she came from a family where money was lacking. Okay, and her parents, she has three younger siblings. She was the eldest. Okay, and she was also very good at her studies and all. And right from her childhood, it was drummed into her in various forms that you cannot think about marriage for yourself, because we don't have enough money to educate your younger siblings, and you are responsible for sort of taking care of them. And that was so much into her mind, that where there was this one young man who was interested in her, and she was in love with him, and she turned him down. And that is when she came to me, and she said, she was crying profusely, and she was like, I really love him, and I really want to marry him, and I just want to get out of this situation, but I cannot, because my parents are depending on me. Okay, this is also emotional abuse, and this is putting your own dreams, putting your own aspirations onto that child is also an abuse. And these are not, as I said, very serious kind of on the surface. These are not very serious kind of issues, but this is the kind of abuse that you and me, we all go through. There's a third kind of an abuse. This my generation people, especially in the Indian context, will relate to, even generations before us, not the younger generation, is that our parents actually never really sat down and told us a lot of things. We had to learn it through trial and error, or we had to learn it through watching them, observing them, learning from the mistakes that they made, and so that we are supposed to learn that we don't make that mistake. Okay, and that was the kind of parenting that was, especially to my generation, and as I said, the generation previous to us. Now there are pros and cons to both of this, but this, if it is taken negatively, it reflects into you constantly want validation for what you are doing, because it has never been clearly mentioned, it has never been clearly told to you, it has never been clearly voiced out, because you are just supposed to learn it on your own. Okay, now this is also a mild form of emotional abuse. Okay, and the other aspect, the con side of this, as I said, it was this, and the pro is that you become an independent thinker. You start making your own decisions, but it's almost like you are left on your own. You are supposed to figure it out on your own. So as a child, you look up to your parents for that kind of a nurturing, that kind of a support. I'm not saying that we don't have that, my generation does not have that. We know that they are there for us, but basically it was, we had to figure out things for ourselves. Okay, and because now what happens is, not all of us are equipped to do the right decision, and that is where we take the con from it, and we start wanting confirmation for what we are doing. And then the easy part is that you stick to what they did, and you just feel that is life, so you conform to what was your parents' idea of the right framework, right? So that is a very mild form of emotional abuse. Expecting things from your child where you are actually not doing, you feel you have very good intentions, that you don't want the child to do, as I said, don't do this to your child, or don't do this to your wife tomorrow. So this is actually, they feel the intention is that it is very nice, but what the effect of the child carries into even adulthood is not good, because they have these are very deep rooted wounds. And now if you come to a little the darker side of emotional and mental abuse is where if the child sees the child does not know the word incompatibility, but if the child is exposed to constant fights, constant arguments, loud raised voices, that is, where it makes the child fearful, and then the child tries to do things which does not bring on that wrath to him. Okay, and this they carry into their adulthood, where we were discussing during, in fact this was during my training as a counselor, and I remember the faculty, very eminent psychiatrist in Pune, Dr. Ullas Lukhtuke, he gave us a case to solve. Okay, and what would you do if you came across this? And it was like there is this couple who fights a lot. Okay, and you are the only child, and there is an only child, and what happens is there is this every day, there is this loud arguments, and there is back and forth, there's a lot of crying, there's a lot of shouting, there's sulking. So he asked us, how do you think the child will turn out to be? And it was very interesting because we all had very different ideas. We were 8 of us in the class, and we all had our own way of looking at things. And one of those one of my fellow students, I remember, he said something very interesting. He said, this child will never look up, will never look in the eyes of anybody. And because I remember even me, we had given different kinds of things, like the child may be dysfunctional in so and so, he may not want to get married, he may be very quiet as a person, and he will try not to do what his father was doing to his mother. And many of us, we came up with something quite similar. And I remember this one fellow student of mine, and he said, this child will never look anybody in the eye. And I remember Dr. Lukhtuke, he said, interesting, how did you come to that? And I remember him saying that, because this child is, when you look at somebody in the eye, you are conveying quite a lot through your eyes. And the parents, when they are looking at it, suppose there's been a fight, and then when you are faced with them for the dinner or for whatever that goes on in the family, and you look at them, they probably would be looking at you angrily, or there were tears. And so what would that child do? He will not look up, he will not give eye to eye contact. Now this is, so as I said, it can go to that extent, that this, so when we say not look at anybody, give an eye to eye contact, it also means a low self-esteem, it also means low self-worth, it also means depression, it also means bottling down emotions. Okay, so putting things down, not voicing it, not confronting it. These kind, such kind of children will not want to confront anybody, so they will probably just keep it bottled inside, and they will go about their life, because that is what, not giving you an eye to eye contact. So these are very deep wounds, and this is something that will be carried into his life, and it not just affects his personal life, it affects his professional life also. And as parents, we need to be very aware. Sometimes what happens is the fights or the disagreements between the parents get reflected into neglecting the child, or making the child feel that you're not important at this moment, I have enough grief, I have enough problems of my own. And that feeling of neglect, that feeling of being ignored, that feeling of being, you're not my number one priority, right now I have too much on my plate, I can't cope with this, that kind of a feeling also gives rise to low self-esteem. It gives rise to bullying. Okay, because they don't get that kind of an attention here, so now they will do something to somebody where they get attention, even if it is negative. Okay, and as I said, I'm not saying exactly this happens. Okay, these are all different kinds of scenarios. These things can happen, and there is plenty of evidence for that. Okay, there's a lot of research on these topics. The third important abuse that we do is something that I have coined as the financial abuse. Again, it is quite related to emotional abuse. This is especially with parents who are separated, and the child is in the custody of one parent, and the other parent has some visiting rights. Okay, and but not limited to only a separated or divorced parenting. Okay, what happens is you like to buy the affection of that child through money. So because the time is limited for you to spend with your child, you would every time be carrying something for the child, which is not to say bad, okay, but it is as a replacement of the time that you spend away from that child. Now what happens is affection, love gets equated with gifts and money for the child. So this is something that the parent has to be very aware of, that you cannot always equate things with money. Okay, because your love, your affection, your security, your nurturing is what the child requires. Of course money is definitely important, but excuse me, but what is more important is that money can be replaced, but love, affection, your nurturing, your your attention cannot be replaced with money. Okay, so that is something that we need to be very aware of. And this applies to even families where everybody is together as a unit, where you want to earn the affection of that child towards you. It's almost like some competition, like you like mama by more or you like papa more. Excuse me. That is an emotional abuse. That is financial abuse. As I said, there is a very thin line, and they often than not they all overlap. Okay, so this is something that we should not do. Or mummy doesn't like the child watching cartoons, so when she is not around and you want to buy the affection of the child and you say, come now, you watch whatever you want to. So this is an emotional abuse also, because you're playing with the mental status of that child, you're playing with the emotions of that child, and you've created a negative picture of your spouse. So buying something, okay, so it's in terms of money, in terms of making the child feel that I am the provider of the family, so I am going to buy you a future, and her work is not important or his work is not important, what I am giving to you is more important. This is what, yes, it happens, and you hear this from a lot of people, even those who are not my clients, and I've seen with my friends, because when the child is sometimes, and the other extreme is they just don't give the child anything. Okay, there is just no giving of any money. Okay, there is a lot of affection, everything is given, but as far when the child asks for money or asks for some gift or something, it is denied, and that is also an abuse, because it is almost like you cannot demand, I'll give it to you when I want to give you. Okay, that is an abuse. And these kind of children who are denied a say in what they want, or they don't get what they want, they go into a feeling and a mindset of lack. So they will say, tomorrow I'm going to earn so much of money, come what may, and by hook or crook. That is also possible. Okay, so something that as the parents need to be very careful about. Okay, now the physical abuse. As a parent, you need to be very, very careful. See, discipline is very important. Every child has to be disciplined. There is no two things about it, and I'm not against disciplining at all. Okay, but discipline need not be only in the form of a physical punishment. Okay, so slapping a child, hitting a child, belting a child, kicking a child is just not acceptable. That is just not acceptable, and that has a very deep rooted wound on the child. See, when the child is young, he will be very, very scared of you. There will be fear, there will be anxiety, there will be anger, there will be sorrow. But as the child grows up, girl or boy, as the child grows up, these feelings will be there, but they will get converted more into hatred. They'll get more converted into rebelliousness, okay, rebelling. They'll get more converted into addictions as a form of rebellion, as a form of saying, I do what I want to do, being in control, okay. So physical abuse, yes, comes out of a feeling of wanting to control somebody. So you don't do what I want you to do, you don't listen to me, and then I lose my cool and I'm going to use physical abuse. I'm going to use physical and violence against you. Now that is going, as I said, going to stay with the child forever. The scars remain. The wounds may heal, but the scars remain. And sadly enough, a lot of these physical abuse happens when the one of the parent or both the parents, unfortunately sometimes, are addicted to something. It could be to substance abuse, it could be to alcoholism, it could be to gambling, it could be unemployment, which results into anger, and that frustration comes out in the form of beating the child. Okay, so this kind of a physical abuse, actually it reflects in the behavior of that child in two ways. Again, this child may grow up to be a bully because he has seen himself getting scared and fearing that power which was beating him. So now he wants to use that power on somebody and get that thrill of, I am now in charge, I am now in power, okay. So that control, so that is one aspect of it. And the other aspect, what happens is, when a child is goes through this physical abuse, is he becomes so low in his self-esteem, becomes so low, he has such low self-worth that I deserve this kind of, I did this, so mom hit me or my dad hit me, I brought this onto me. And that is, there is no nurturing. Your plant is not going to be a fully fledged tree, because it's just not breathing the right kind of oxygen. It is not getting the right kind of nutrition to grow into himself, what he is fated or what he is destined to be. Okay, so excuse me, physical abuse. One of my clients, but it was in a passing. This was not what the reason why he came to me. It was in a passing, and he said he had come to me for his alcoholism, of course, but he was not into physical abuse to his children or his wife. He was a very nice gentleman. In that sense, when I say nice, everybody is nice, but he was not into physical abuse. But what happened is, during the course of our discussion, he said, I did not pick up the violence from my father, but I picked up the alcoholism from my father, and he was battling his addiction. And so when I dug a little deeper, and how was it? Just one slap once in a while is like not a great physical abuse in India. Okay, in the Western context it's different, in the global context. In India it's like normal for us to be slapped once in a while. So what I meant, what he said was, was it very serious, or was it just once in a while? He said, serious? My father used to tie me upside down to a fan or kind of a thing they had for the swing. They had these hinges, and my father would tie one leg upside down, and he would bend me. And that used to be more often than not when he was drunk, okay, and for very silly reasons, like, why are you looking at me like that, and go get me the food quickly, and you don't get it quickly, then you get the beating, okay. And strangely, his father never beat his wife, he beat his son. He didn't beat the daughter also, he beat his son. So there were other issues why he was doing that, okay. So this was in the past. So the scars remain, and he was very sad, and this gentleman also tried very hard, and he's also good to his wife, he's very good to both his sons. He is not he doesn't do physical abuse, but he has caught that, he had caught that alcoholism. He's still battling it. It's a long haul for him. Okay, so as I was mentioning, it's not easy. It's not easy. Sure, you as a couple may be struggling for whatever reasons. You may be incompatible, you may have your own issues, you may not agree with many things, but as a parent, when your disagreements don't stay between you and they reflect on the child, the effects are far more than what you are going through, because this child is not only going to feel it and go through it himself, he is going to carry it on in his relationship. So there may be this one nice man coming into your daughter's life, and he does not know why your daughter is feeling like that. That brings me to the next topic, which is the most controversial out of these five abuses that you have. That's the sexual abuse. Now, in the Indian context, a lot of us will say, no, it's not an Indian thing, it may be more in the global context. You'll be shocked at how much sexual abuse goes on in our families, okay, and in families like you. I'm not talking about the slum areas only. Yes, it is more in those areas, but it is in every strata of our society, okay. And I'll start by giving an example of my own client. She was married, I think 3 months, 2 to 3 months when she came to me, and she came with her husband, okay, and for counseling. And married couple, young couple, they were both very, very awkward and didn't know how to start, and took me a while to sort of prod them. And the man was not talking at all, because she came for her counseling, and he just left it to her that she wants to talk to you, I'm just here to offer her moral support. And she started by crying for, I think, 10 minutes flat. Okay, she was crying for 10 minutes flat. She was just not consolable. And when she stopped, and she had that glass of water, a little bit of tea, we took a small walk in my garden, we came back, and then she says, we've been married for 3 months now, 2 to 3 months, I don't exactly remember. She said we've been married, but it was 2 to 3 months. We've been married for 2 to 3 months, but I just cannot become intimate with him. We have not had sex at all yet. And okay, so I asked her many questions point blank in front of her husband, and every answer to my question was, no, it's not him, the problem is me. Okay, so no, it is not him, it is me. Every question, this was the answer, it is not him, it is me. Okay, so and he was not denying, he was not like saying anything, so it was the truth. And the story was like, she was 7 years old when her mother died, and she was the younger child. She had an elder brother, and the father was into railways, okay, and his job, he used to travel quite a lot. And the boy, I think her brother was about 6 years or 5 to 6 years elder to her. So it so happened that both the brother and the sister used to be alone when the father used to go away. And it so happened that when she was 7, then she would feel scared that the father is also not there, her mother has passed away, and she would wake up crying, she would probably be having nightmares. And then she started sleeping next to her brother, and this continued for a few years, and there was no issue, everything was all very fine. And then I think when she was 10 or 11 years old, she woke up one night to find her brother sort of touching her in her private places, in her private areas, in a very forceful way. And she didn't know what was happening because she was very young. She was 10 or 11 years old. And she just sort of tried to brush him away, and things were okay then. And then a few days later, again the same thing happens, and this time he forces himself on her. And he does it so brutally that she's bleeding very badly. Now I'm going into all these details because this is family. This is the brother that is, uh, that is doing the sexual abuse on the child. And she's bleeding profusely. The father is not in the at home. He is not in town, and he comes the next day. And till then, the girl is still in that state where she's so shocked that she's not even had a bath. Okay, and the father immediately realizes that something is wrong, and he goes into the bedroom and sees that the sheet has been changed, and a different sheet was there, and a new sheet was there, not even something that was opened, that they had kept it for Diwali kind of a festival. And he just lifted it and he saw all blood stains there, and he knew that there is something wrong, and he didn't realize that it was his own son who was doing this to his daughter. And when he sort of talks to talk to her and everything, the truth came out. And so what happened later is a different thing. And how her father was so protective about her, and he gave her the love and affection that she needed so well, and everything went very well after that. Even her brother was treated, and everything was fine. She carried that after she was married at the age of 25, and that was when she had this, and she just could not bring herself to get intimate with her husband. Now the sexual abuse is a complete violation of somebody's personality, of somebody's identity, because it is the sheer force of wanting something that is not yours, that is not given to you freely. Okay, and I'm mentioning this here is this example here is because you see, parenting, the awareness and the vigilance that is required of a parent was what the father did, because that saved her at least for those 10-15 years that she was there with her family before she got married. Okay, but everybody if the parent is not vigilant, it will happen. Majority of the sexual abuse that happens are within family. Yes, there are outsiders who do it, neighbors who do it, the child, most of them are known to the child. Okay, and I'm talking about sexual abuse. Okay, so it is these are known people. So from the society, from the watchmen, your drivers, I'm not blaming anybody particular. I'm just giving you people whom the child trusts on a day-to-day basis. And it is people from the family. So I don't want to get anybody paranoid, but the male figures are somebody to be watched out. Even your own husband, even your own son. Okay, so these are people. There are uncles who do it, there are cousins who do it. Okay, so as a parent, you need to be very, very vigilant and be very aware. And it's not just girls who get sexually abused, it's the boys too. Okay, so there are all kinds of perverts around everywhere, and so please don't come back and reply and say that it does not happen in India, it is a global thing. No, come to me, I'll give you plenty of examples and plenty of my clients who have gone through mild or serious sexual abuse. Okay, so this is something that I wanted to share with you today, and I hope this helps the parents understand that whatever is the environment, whatever you give the child is what the child is going to either take it as an ideal. Okay, and because he takes the good, what he considers is good in you, he's going to take it, and he's going to want to emulate. And what is bad in you, he's going to be sure that he's going to stay away from that, whatever he considers bad in you. So as a parent, you need to be very careful about how you as a couple interact, because that affects the child in many more ways than one can even imagine. Okay, be aware, be alert, and be vigilant, because every time you want to have a fight or a argument, which is very, very normal, every couple goes through ups and downs. And if they don't go through ups and downs, that is abnormal. So if you want to, it should be behind a closed door. Okay, it should not be in front of the children. And no matter what happens between the two of you, when you come out and when you are with your children, don't carry it to them. That is something that is very, very important. Your child has an identity of his own, and let him become the way he should become and the way he wants to become, okay, not what he's picking up from you negatively. So if that helps, I'm sure, because the idea behind me wanting to make this video is, it's a very taboo kind of a topic. We don't like to talk about it, but as a parent you have to be very aware of it, okay. So be careful, be aware, and be very vigilant about your child. Keep your children safe, keep them, nurture them, and help them grow into whatever they are destined to be, okay. So I hope that helps, and I'm sorry it's a big video again, but I hope it helps somebody. So I hope to see you soon in a video next time soon, okay. Thank you so much for watching. Namaste.